All right, guys. So today, on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, I think it is important to take time to reflect on the 3,000 American lives that were lost in the worst attack on U.S. soil, right? And not just 3,000 lives were lost. That includes first responders, just bystanders, innocent people. But you also had over 6,000 people that were injured, right? And then after that, you had people that were bravely going in and try to help people that died later on from diseases like cancer, due to all the chemicals they were inhaling trying to save people, right? In one of the again worst tragic moments in American history, also in my opinion, the people who were there, who responded, who bravely went in there, right, also showed one of the most heroic moments in American history and really defines what America is, right? It was a moment where we all came together to understand that, hey, you know what? Despite our differences, right? Despite, the fact that we don't always get along, when it comes to protecting each other from foreign threats, hey, we team America. We team America. And that's what I love about this country, guys. And that's kind of the way I like to think about 9/11. Obviously, reflecting on those people whose lives were lost, okay, but also thinking about, again, how we came together in that moment, and moved forward together, as Americans. I think that, in my opinion, that's really kind of the light in the darkness, right? I like to see the positive side of things, right? I like to find some light in the darkness, right? I have a glass half full perspective on the world, right? I mean, that's what essentially keeps me sane throughout all this chaos going on in this country right now. Most people on today are gonna have pretty solid, sober takes on 9/11 and reflect on it in a way that's actually respectful to the victims of that attack. However, the left-wing liberal media always disappoints, okay? Because today we have a left-wing lunatic, Mr. Jonathan Capehart, who decided to give a take on PBS in which he basically, again, compares January 6th to 9/11 and makes the argument that MAGA is the worst threat to the United States than any type of foreign threats. Take a look.
I think that in these 20 years, just to add on to what David was just talking about, we've seen a lot of what I think of as one giant step forward, and then two giant steps back. One giant step forward was the election of Barack Obama as president of the United States, first black president. But a huge step back was the election of Donald Trump as president. Another huge step forward, the election of Joe Biden as president of the United States. Another huge step forward, marriage equality. But another huge step back, to my mind, one was the fact that even though Donald Trump lost election, he got 12 million more votes than he did in 2016. So it just highlights the divisions within the country. And then the ultimate step back, January 6th. My colleague Carlos Lozado said this morning on television that how ironic it is that on September 11th, there were reports that the plane that went down in Shanksville was headed to the Capitol, headed to crash into the Capitol. And yet at almost 20 years later, the Capitol was ransacked by domestic terrorists who lay siege to the U.S. Capitol at a time when the members of Congress was certifying the last election. That was, to my mind, the ultimate step back. And to your point about, the world turning away from democracy, we have that issue here at home right now.
So, Jonathan, you see it. What I hear you saying is that other forces have changed politics more since 9/11 than 9/11.
Oh, I think so. I think MAGA and the domestic terror threat is much more worrisome than any foreign threat we could face.
All right, guys. So that was really such a disgusting commentary that I don't even know if I have time to break down all these silly things that this man said, okay? But I'm going to try my best because, first of all, I find it disgusting when people do this. It is 9/11. right? And on your 9/11 reflection, you're taking the time to try to compare 9/11 to January 6th? Really? Really? I mean, I'm serious about this. Like, why do these people think it's okay to do that, right? A day in which 3,000 Americans lost their lives to a foreign terrorist attack. You're trying to compare that to what happened on January 6th. 3,000 Americans didn't lose their lives on January 6th. I don't see what the comparison is. So, again, this guy right here is playing the game of trying to, again, make certain people out in this country to be, the real threat. You have to go after those people, right? You're turning Americans against each other on a day where we should be coming together and saying, you know what, despite our differences, we're still Americans, right? Despite our differences, we're still Americans. But outside of that, he was talking about how, well, I guess in reference to 9/11 and moving forward as a country, he says, well, Obama was a step forward. I'm like, well, in what way was Obama a step forward? Please explain. I'm assuming he's talking about race relations. He has to be talking about race relations because he can't be talking about foreign policy because under Trump, again, we had peace in the Middle East, right? Which is essentially the reason why we invaded Afghanistan after 9/11 anyways, because we believed, and we can get into that, but that ain't the video for all this, but we believe the attacks were planned and orchestrated in Afghanistan. And for whatever reason, we went in Iraq too, but hey, it is what it is. Again, this is not the video for all that. But again, under Trump, we had peace, right? So when he's talking about Obama, I'm assuming he got to be talking about race relations, right? And when he's talking about taking a step back under Trump, again, I got to assume he's talking about race relations. Under Obama, Black Lives Matter started under Obama, right? Black Lives Matter started under Obama. That's where all the race relations in this country went to hell. Under Obama. Obama was probably the most divisive commander-in-chief that we've had in a long, long time, at least in my lifetime. I'm so serious. Again, if you don't believe me, where did all this racial tension start? It started under Obama, right? It started under Obama. And people try to say, well, it was because he was the first black president. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, then why did so many white people vote for him? The only way the man could become president is if a ton of white people in this country said, I think a black man should be president, right? I mean, for various reasons, not necessarily just because he's black, but for whatever reasons, people voted for him, okay? So again, in my opinion, I don't really understand the argument here. It seems to me what he's saying is that, well, the country takes a step forward under just Democrats just because they're Democrats. He doesn't have any real details or analysis to explain why you're saying that. And the reason why I know that is because he says that this country took a step forward under Biden, right? And again, discount the disaster at the border, discount the disaster in the economy. Let's just look at what Biden done in Afghanistan. Literally speaking, the way that Biden pulled out of Afghanistan and withdrew from Afghanistan is by definition a step back when it comes to 9/11 and why we invaded Afghanistan in the first place, right? To avenge those American lives that were lost, to try to prevent another attack like this on this soil. Afghanistan is literally in the same exact position that it was before we invaded. A Taliban-controlled government. So how in the world can you come on TV and say that under Trump, it was a step back when we had peace? Or I guess he said 2 steps back or whatever. But under Biden, it's a step forward? Again, if we're just talking about foreign policy when it comes to Afghanistan and things directly related to 9/11, that is just objectively false. That's objectively false. And again, I don't understand how you can make a statement like that on TV and call yourself a journalist. I mean, these people are getting paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to give silly takes like this. Takes that are not grounded in reality at all. Purely partisan hackery at its finest. I mean, come on, you can hate Trump, but damn. I mean, this take right here was one of the worst takes I've ever seen in my life. It's probably the worst 9/11 reflection I've ever heard in my life. Again, it's not just the fact that he compared January 6th to 9/11, which is ridiculous in and of itself and disrespectful, right? To say the least, to the victims. But the dude also tried to say we took a step back under Trump, who fostered peace in the Middle East, who helped engineer one of the greatest economies we've ever seen, okay, in which you had the lowest black unemployment we've ever seen, right? But he talking about, well, Obama was a step forward because he was the first black man elected. Okay? This is what I try to tell you guys. Some of these people, they're more concerned about diversity of faces than they are about actually the well-being of the black community. It's more important that we have a black face in the White House than the lowest black unemployment ever? Really? So yeah, with all that, he says we took steps back under Trump, but somehow we took a step forward under Biden, who basically is responsible for destroying all the progress that we made in Afghanistan and the reason why we actually invaded Afghanistan in the first place, which was 9/11. Again, to me, I just don't understand. I don't get it. It's almost like these guys are just not educated, right? They're just not educated. They don't know anything. But what it really is, again, it's partisan hackery. The goal here is, again, instead of bringing Americans together on a day where Americans should come together and say, hey, you know what? Despite our differences, we still Americans. If somebody attacks us, we go kick their ass, right? Instead of that take, which is reasonable, don't worry about those people, foreign threats. You need to be worried about your neighbor, right? Your neighbor, that guy, he is the biggest threat to you. It's ridiculous. And again, like I said, it's just disrespectful. So I, wanted to respond to this because it was such a silly take. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.